Wait a minute. Let me get my AirPods.
Can you see me?
Wait a minute.
Can you hear me?
Oh, I can.
Yes, we did it. For the next hour and 15 minutes, we'll just talk to each other like no one is here. Just you and me.
Just my brightness here a little bit.
Hey, should we tell everyone about the swag?
Oh. Well, should we wait until some people show up?
Well, okay. Francois, Amanda's here. Tobbe's here. We've got a party. What
are the what's the qualifications for joining the stage?
I have to know who you are, or ask. You have to ask if you can. Not a lot of qualifications, actually.
Yeah, if anybody wants to join the stage.
Hey, here we go. This is I could use some help. We'll let everyone get started here. But if someone wants to do a 2-minute high-level overview of what was released in version .28, let me know. Come up on stage. Tell us about version 0.28. Who wants to do it? I think Keith is accidentally nominated himself. Doesn't have to be.
Is Keith? That's Alaska Keith.
That is Alaska Keith. That's Keith. Sorry, you can give us another nickname for yourself, but Alaska is awesome. So also cool, Keith.
I keep wanting to make this joke every time he's on a call, which is because he works for the power company, right? I believe there's a power.
I think that was right. Yeah.
I always want to say like Redwood. We do not recommend using Redwood to build a power station until we're at 1.0.
1.0. Let's iron out a few bugs.
Yes.
Kinks. Find a few bugs.
Then you can control nuclear reactors with it. That should be good to go.
Then you can. Well, this might be the party. I invited Tobbe. I invited you up on stage. Amanda invited you up. Johan's here. Oh man, look at all these people I know.
Do we want to debate version numbering semantics while we wait for people to show up?
Whether it's .28 or .28? You mean how you say it out loud?
Yeah.
You could. That's always fun.
I would think if you were saying .28, if it was, you would say .2.8 if you actually meant there to be a dot there. But it is the number 28. It's not you like when you see that number written down, you don't say 28, right? You say 28.
Right. So it is intended to be an actual number, right? The dots are just a syntax. But when you say like dot something, I don't know, in my mind it's a decimal, man.
Well, wait, but you wouldn't put a decimal in, right? Because .28, it's not a decimal in your mind between the 2 and the 8, right? Because there is no decimal there.
No, it'd be like 0.28. You know, so if I was to say like, hey, how much apple pie is left? And I said, you know, .75. Maybe that's it. Maybe it's when I say point. Maybe that's what I think when a decimal.
Interesting.
Right?
But if our version numbers were in the hundreds, would you say .123?
Probably. And thus, I would invoke the wrath of Tom. But then also, when I know that Tom kind of has his things, like it's 28, not .28, then it's like, yeah, it's .28 forever.
Just to mess with him.
Because I was a big brother. Yeah. You know? Poke, poke.
Well,
poke, poke.
I mean, he did kind of
Tharshan,
invent semantic versioning. So kind of
also another reason to do it wrong in front of him. Well,
Amanda asked for another invite. She said her browser is freaking out.
Oh, she did. Oh, that's understandable. I did it. I invited.
I still don't see the screen share button unless I use Safari. So I'm on Chrome right now and I don't see it.
Really?
Yeah.
It is Tharshan. Can you see? I'm on Chrome. You've got a screen share. Maybe its permissions have not been enabled yet, Rob. I don't know. Hopefully, Tharshan's gonna be okay.
I can see the screen share button.
Yeah, I don't know.
Well, don't do it. Don't do it yet. Well, let me kick us off. We'll call this a quorum, and it is a smaller group, if anyone, here's how we do this. I'll tell you about the agenda in just a second. But this is very much meant to be casual and interactive. We will have some presentations, have to do some updates. You get to meet some people. And then we have a stage we can invite up to 9 people on here. So you can engage in one of 3 ways. You can interact anonymously on the chat with us. Well, if you gave us your name, I guess you're not anonymous. It doesn't have to be the real you. So engage in the chat. You could also come up on stage, and that's as simple as letting us know you'd like to join us for a conversation. So during some of the discussions, we can do that. And you can do that by audio or audio and video. So no pressure to go full video unless you want to, but we do want to make this interactive in discussion. This is being recorded. And Claire, oh man, kind of feel like Claire should be up here. You can invite Claire up here. So it'll be fun. So here's what we'll do. We'll talk quickly about, someone will talk about version 0.28 here in a second. It could be me. Rob's going to tell you how you can get this amazing, oh, look, I still got the sticker on. Amazing swag. And then, well, okay, we've got Tobbe, who's going to give us an update on a new feature called Sets. We have Tharshan, who's going to give us an amazing demo of a new startup that he's launching. It's built on Redwood. And then we'll have time for discussion and Q&A. And I think that'll be the party. That'll be the party. So let's start with swag, Rob. Tell us what it's not really tell us what we've won, is it? Tell us what we can buy.
Yes, I would screen share at the shop too, but I can't do that. So, but if you go to shop, put in the chat here. If you go to shop, type shop.redwoodjs.com. We have t-shirts, we have hats, we have a pin, this little metal pin. And if you enter this code at checkout, Redwood Community, you get 20% off. So get some shirts and get some hats. There's a flat brimmed hat like David's wearing, the one I always make fun of. There's a curved brim hat, which I don't have near me right now. Oh, there's a beanie. I do have the winter hat beanie, or the toque, as Canadians call it. I don't have a pin here. If you do shirts, the shirts and the pins come from a certain warehouse in San Francisco, and they'll put some stickers in the package. So you'll get some stickers. Unfortunately, those do not come with the hats. But if you get a hat with a shirt, you would also get stickers because they'll come with the shirt. He got the beanie, and he needs that because he's in Alaska.
Can you see that? See the shirt? Little light, little gray on black. It's
so we have the black on black. So Tom kind of invented that at GitHub. That was like one of the first ones that did like a black on black tech t-shirt. That was like Tom's invention. So he has a very specific mix of black on that black t-shirt. And that's like the most comfortable t-shirt ever. It's the next level t-shirts, Tri-Blend. It's the only brand of shirt Tom wears, apparently.
Apparently. I think he has about 20 of them, as a matter of fact. So, hey, very good. Well, I wanted to introduce everyone to Amanda. We'll try again. She says that the camera and Livestorm are not compatible at the moment. But Amanda, even if it's just by audio, that'd be totally fine.
Yeah,
Rob, I think. Oh, very good. Rob, I think we can hear homeschool in the background.
Okay.
All right. That's cool. Rob, in his spare time, homeschools children to turn them into fully not.
No, I don't homeschool. This is regular public school. They just do it at home now.
Oh, okay.
I don't have the patience for that.
Well, it's fair enough. Yay to quarantine life. So version 0.28. Okay, you all just help me out. And Amanda, I think we can hear you. We'll talk about the community here in a second. Spare time is a thing? Yeah, not anymore. Okay, so 0.28. We had Redwood releases. If someone does want to put a link up there to probably the community forums and the announcement for the latest Redwood release. We always announce our releases in our forums, announcement category, and have a lot of updates as well as how to upgrade. We are pre-version 1, but we're getting very close. And that means that there are breaking changes in releases, but we often and always will give you information about how to upgrade from previous releases to get that. But we had some amazing new features all rolled out in one. It was a really it was a milestone release for us in and of itself. We have a built-in logger that David Tharshan did. It uses Pinot, but you get logging out of the box. It's integrated, and then you can configure it to do all kinds of nice things when you deploy to production. We have this new fancy routes sets wrapper thing that Tobbe's going to give us a demo of. We had some new configuration options. We upgraded to Storybook. So if you don't know that Redwood has built-in test suite along with a document that we refer to as the Bible of Testing that Mr. Cameron wrote. It's kind of it's not just how to test, it's the philosophy of testing, if you will. But check that out on redwoodjs.com docs / it's just test, right? I'm trying to
I think it's testing.
Testing. All right. So wonderful doc. There's test suites now, just fully integrated front-end API, back-end API to front-end web. We spin up a test database. It's really nice. So Storybook version 6, now you can configure and add on and do add-ons for Storybook, the plugins in your own app as well. Accessibility. We'll be talking about accessibility at the next meetup that we do, but we have a whole new accessibility feature for Redwood happening right now, and there's a lot more to come. We're also homeschooling. Hang on, I have a hug to give, and I'll be right back. Okay. All right, and that's parenting live. So we have where was accessibility during the next meetup? We're gonna have Dom go through the accessibility features. Yeah, we had a few other things that were in that release. Did anyone? What am I missing? There was like 2 or 3 more highlights. Maybe one more. Anyone? Nope. Okay. All right. Well, anyway, they were great. So that's in version 0.28. You should download it. What's the best way to get started with Redwood? Anyone? Who's got the answer? Amanda. Well, we're going to go to you next. What's the best way to get started with Redwood? The tutorial. Yeah, fantastic. If anyone could put a link to the tutorial in our chat, redwoodjs.com /tutorial. But the tutorial is all of the what is Redwood? It answers those questions, and it also answers the questions, how do I use Redwood, and what does the developer workflow look like? So that's in the tutorial. Even important as the code base itself, Redwood spends a lot of time focused on community and having an amazing, exceptional community. And we want to be, we are working on and living by the ethos of if we help each other be successful with Redwood, that's how we'll make Redwood successful. And we want to be an amazing, if not the most amazingest community in open source. And we're getting there. So we invite anyone to participate in a lot of ways. We have a public community that you can participate in on our GitHub, GitHub issues and PRs, but also we have forums, community.redwoodjs.com, and a chat for Discord. And that's all great ways to get involved. And we also have a core team, and those are members of our community that have leadership across maintaining, documentation, the community itself, advocacy, and that's our core team. But in the middle is this group called the Contributors Group. And it's, we call it a loosely held invite only group of people that have been helping out, are enthusiastic about Redwood and want to get further plugged in, and we do some separate meetups for them. And that's something we talk about publicly, although we invite people to come in and do that. And that's how we got to know Amanda. So Amanda, I don't know if your microphone is working, or sorry, if your video is working right now, which is fine. But Amanda, we've known you for, I think, a month or 2 now. And I want to introduce you to the community. So first off, tell us, who are you? And is your hair, I see your avatar, but is your hair still green right now?
My hair is still green. My hair has actually been green for probably 4 years now. I always wanted green hair when I was younger. And when I got older, I said I'm going to do it when I turned 30. So that's where I'm at. I am a backend developer, have been a .NET developer for about 10 years now. Recently, once I had my daughter in September and went back to work, I started wanting to get more involved in front end and learning about open source. And I went to the daily dev meetup, the monthly dev one, and I believe, what was that, January or February? And David did a talk at the first monthly dev, and I took all these notes. And I immediately got on board and joined the community and very quickly wound up contributing, I think, to the docs. I think I fixed something in the tutorial doc or something. And that was that. And I've been promoting Redwood to everybody, and it's a lot of fun. And right now I'm actually working with David on helping build out more of a friendly for contributor beginners, so to speak, coming up with documentation to make it easier for developers to get involved with contributing to Redwood. And yeah, that's my spiel.
So how, I just want to, sometimes it feels like from the outside looking in, there's a lot of mystery. How do people get involved in these projects? But this feels really, right, serendipitous. You were out there doing some things, and then you jumped in the project. But do you remember, so what was the mystery? What was the path? Because I remember when you attended our first contributors meetup that we had, and I think that was all within the first couple of weeks that that you had gotten plugged into Dev 2, or we'd done the Dev 2 webinar, correct?
Correct. The daily, it was on that same week Yeah,
and was there any mystery magic to what happened there, Amanda? Like, did you show up with superpowers, or what actually, here's a better question. What is it you think you did that, quote, got you into the contributors group?
I think I was just very vocal on social media about how much I loved working with Redwood and how easy it was, how much I loved the tutorial, the documentation and everything. And I think I was just very vocal on social media. And David was like, hey, you want to come join the contributors group? And I said, okay, what did I do? So it was really easy to get involved.
I think that's exactly what I recall as well. Now, wait a second. You're not a full stack JavaScript, React, GraphQL, Postgres expert, and yet you're trying to get involved in this Redwood JavaScript full stack Jamstack thing. Tell me about that, Amanda.
I am a full .NET ecosystem developer, and I've always been very intimidated by front end and all the different libraries and ways to build out front end apps. And when I found Redwood, I said, oh, it like connected those dots from being a back end developer to the front end, because it had that both sides of it already kind of built in, where trying to build out all of that individually when you don't really know what you're doing is very complex, and I would give up a lot. So Redwood made it so easy to just be like, hey, that's how I do this. Okay. And now I can learn because I already have the groundwork in place and I can build on top of it. So that's been really cool.
Okay. This is in no pressure. I really do want an honest answer to this question. Has it been true for you, this little credo of if we help each other be successful with Redwood, that's how we make Redwood successful? Have you felt that has been true for you so far?
Definitely. Just reaching out I can reach out to anybody on the team and ask questions, and everyone's always responsive and helpful. No one ever makes you feel like, oh, you should know that already. It's always, oh, wait, well, what don't you know? How can I help you? Here's docs. Here's links to these libraries I've used to solve this problem, or anything. Like it runs the whole spectrum. I've been a little quiet in the forums and stuff because I am now a new mom, so there's not a lot of free time to work on stuff. But when I do, I always have resources to go to and people to talk to. So it's been really one of the best communities I've been a part of, for sure.
Amanda, that's amazing to hear. And you already said you were, but I'm excited to see how then you take that and do help other people be successful with Redwood, right?
Really?
And for you to come in with that as your starting place and not be worried about and obviously worried is a generalization, right? Because there are skills to learn and learn to do these things, but for you to come in with that mindset as well of, well, I'm going to start by contributing to docs because that's a place I can contribute, but also help other people. That's an amazing mindset, and everyone is welcome to do that. There's not, our PRs are open and those things are there. And also, Amanda, two things, you know this, but I want to say it publicly too for everyone. If you find ways we can do it better, we want to know that. And also, when you feel like we're not doing it right, I want you to tell Rob, because Rob looks like our mild-mannered tutorial document writer, but he's our enforcer. So we just tell Rob, and he makes people nice. If they're mean, we send them to Rob, and they come out nice on the other side. So will you tell us? Keep us honest about this. All right.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you. It's a pleasure. It's really been fun to get to know you, and thank you for letting me last minute invite you to come up here and do this.
No, of course. And it's been fun getting to know everybody else. It's been a really great experience. So anybody, don't be afraid to join. It's really not scary at all.
Thank you. That's good. Well, Rob and but we just see the nice side of Rob.
You ever notice how many people got started in contributing to Redwood by fixing mistakes in the tutorial? That's good. Is that good or bad?
That was your plan all along. You can just tell us that was your plan.
No,
Yeah, I inserted all these typos on purpose just to give people an entry point.
Actually, I think that's a good thing because it shows people aren't afraid. Like they realize, oh, well, people make mistakes, and it's not, when you know what you're doing, it's very easy to skip small things or not notice certain things because you know how to fix it already. So you don't think, oh, that's an issue. It's more someone who's new and hasn't done it before goes, wait a minute, that's not right. Something's wrong here. So I think it's good that people get involved.
Yeah.
As do we. See, Amanda, you're welcome to stay up here if you'd like. It's fun to have some little witty banter and interrupt people or doing presentations. So feel free to join us, but you're also welcome to go. Thank you. It's been a pleasure, and look forward to seeing you more active or however you contribute to the community. We welcome it and look forward to it. So thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
All right, Tobbe, it is time for some router sets action. So take it away.
Thank you. Absolutely. Sharing screen.
Make sure I will stick around. Oh, there it is. All right, all you. Ooh, the
You
internet.
guys over there.
Those look good.
Nice.
Merch.
Yeah. So I prepared a little project to show off the new set feature that we have built for the router. It's something the entire team has been working on for the last little while, and we're finally able to show it off, and we're pretty happy with it. So yeah, so this is as I said, a small project I built, and right now it's using old, should I say, technology, regular, like how you would probably have your project set up right now. I have a big main layout with a top section, and what's interesting in the top section here is the little shopping cart to the right with a 0 beside it, showing how many items I have in my cart right now. Also part of the layout is left navigation bar with a static home link and 3 dynamic band names. So that's actually a cell fetching bands from the database, rendering here in the left navigation menu. And one issue that I'm sure you have seen, especially if you have cells in your layout, is this flash. Actually, let me slow down to 3G connection, and you will, font size. I can zoom in a bit. Now, if I click here, you will definitely notice the cell loading state. Going back to home, you can see loading again. That's because everything is re-rendering when I'm switching pages here. But we don't really want that, do we? Because the light gray area here, that's the actual page. The rest is the layout, and that stays the same all the time. So we should only be changing the page itself, not the layout.
If only there was a way to do that.
Yeah, exactly. I'm getting
how.
Another thing I want to show is the shopping cart. So now when I click here, I'm adding items to a shopping cart, and I can switch to Rammstein and add some of those shirts as well. But now when I go home, you see it reset to 0. And that's also because the state is local to the layout. And when I switch page, the entire page is re-rendered and the local state is forgotten or lost. It does work when I change between the bands because they are on the same. Well, React is clever enough to realize they are on the same page, so it doesn't re-render everything. But when I switch to home, that's a totally different page, and my state is forgotten. So now I want to show you
right? When the state is forgotten.
Bad.
Okay.
Yeah, that's not good.
I thought, just to be clear.
Yeah. All right. So I want to show how we can solve this now with a new set feature. gonna zoom in a bit here. Hopefully you can see that all right.
Yeah, I think that's good.
Yeah.
If it's not, please tell us in the chat.
So I'm importing this new set component from the router. And then I can wrap that around those two pages, the t-shirt page and the home page. And I'll tell it to wrap those pages with my layout. Yeah. And so now I can go to the t-shirts page. And I can remove the layout from here because it's now finding the route file instead. Remove the import. That. Also for the home page, I can remove the layout. And I just want to focus on the reloading, the load state for the cell for now. So I'm gonna remove the cart updating for now. Okay. Oops.
I think Tharshan knows what's going on. Tharshan has a question for you.
Oh, the auto import. Yeah. That's, I don't know, Redwood magic. It does that for you.
Oh, did you handle the layout in your routes? That's what I was wondering. That's what I thought Tharshan was asking about.
Yeah. So.
Oh, there it is. Got it.
Yeah, VS Code imported it for me. And just gonna remove this add item thing here for now. And there we go. So now, even if I turn on 3G throttling, I can switch between the pages, and there's no loading in the layout. Obviously, there's still loading in the pages because I have to fetch the t-shirts from the database. But in the layout, we have no loading. And that's thanks to the set.
Pretty amazing.
Yeah, that's sweet. And so for the next thing is the shopping cart. It needs to remember how many items are in the cart, even when you switch pages. There are a few ways to solve this. The way I did it is to introduce a React context to keep the shopping cart items. And what you can do here is you can actually wrap multiple components around your pages. So cart context. Put an array there, and all the components in your array will be wrapped around the pages in the order that they are defined in the array. So we will have the cart context at the top, and then the layout inside the context, and the pages inside the layout. Now I'm going to cheat a little bit because this is enough live coding for a demo. And I'm going to pick up the set branch instead. Oops. Dash. So I have the cart provider. It's now magically imported, not because of Redwood, but because of Git. So cart context. So this is just a regular React context with a couple of custom hooks. So from my layout, I can just use that hook to get the items and print them in the cart. And in my t-shirt page, sorry, in the t-shirt cell actually. So I use the add item hook when I click on the t-shirts. So now, when I add items to my cart. They remember between the t-shirt pages as they were before, but now even when I go to the home page, they're still in the cart. I have 10 items here. And all of this without any kind of flashing, any kind of unnecessary re-render to anything. So that's what you can do right now with the latest version of Redwood. But we also have some other features planned. Some of them are in Canary, some of them are in the PRs, and some of them are just ideas in our heads so far. Keith wants to see the main layout, of course.
Is there state within the main layout?
No, I moved it to the context instead. So this was the local state in the layout before, but now it's moved to the context instead.
Yeah, and maybe, so in the routes, maybe show where, right, the set wrapper is where you're handling it. Keith, does that make sense?
He says, okay, yeah, perfect.
Okay. So Tobbe, this is amazing. Who do we have to thank for this code that magically appeared in version 0.28?
The Redwood core team, of course.
Well, there was, so yes, there were months of conversation about this.
Yeah.
We are very partial to having a routes file and making that as readable as possible. So this was the convention we wanted to follow, but we're missing some pieces that Tobbe identified and things he wanted to do early on. So there was a lot of conversation and there was collaboration, but this PR was Tobbe's PR. And it was great work, Tobbe. This one's unlocking a lot of, the new ideas came flooding in after you got this PR and people started using sets. So that's what you're going to talk about next. But I just wanted to pause to say this is a really phenomenal feature and it's well done. So hats off to the team and to you.
Thank you. Yeah, so one thing I think Rob mentioned like a day or two after this was released was that he wanted to be able to pass props to the wrapper components. So what he wanted to be able to do was like put an extra prop here. Like that. And then, as I said, this is not released yet, but it's coming. This extra prop will be passed to the main layout and also the card provider so they can access it automatically. And another thing we've been thinking of is the this root parameter band slug on the t-shirts page. Wouldn't it be nice if the layout would also be able to know what the different params for your path is? So that is also something we're working on, being able to pass automatically to the wrapper components. Today we already pass it automatically to the pages, but we want to also pass it automatically to the wrapper components. And the final thing I wanted to show that we've been working on is, you see all these admin pages here? Normally, you would probably put them in a private, make them private.
Unauthorized is so hard to spell. Yeah, unauthenticated.
Unauthorized, yeah, whatever it is. Not authenticated or unauthorized, something else, one or the other.
It's a hard one.
Yeah. So if you're not authorized, you will be redirected to home. But now with a new set feature, you might also want to share your layout between all these routes. So you would put a set here and wrap your, let's call it admin layout. Like that.
And just to make it clear, if people haven't tried private before, that's all built into Redwood's auth package. So that's just an extent, when you use Redwood's auth, regardless of your provider that you're using, that comes with it, and it's all integrated really nicely.
Yeah. And this is good. but we saw an opportunity to make it even better. So what we're looking to add is to be able to make the set private itself. Like that. And then you have to put the unauthenticated prop here as well, home. And now you can get rid of the private component or private tag. And again, we have the nice flat, as flat as possible router.
So
which we really like.
Yeah, we do. And this is these are open PRs, which means if people want to get involved and provide feedback or check them out, they are currently happening on GitHub. So jump in, and that's probably I think we all kind of voted, Rob, including you, on that syntax being the one to go with. But I think that was still up for finalizing, if I'm correct. Yes.
Yeah, it's not merged yet.
Yes,
so there's still time to voice your opinion.
Yeah, because it does show your work. So.
All right. Yeah. So that's all I wanted to show. Thank you.
Okay, Tobbe, thank you. That's really amazing, and it's so readable. Yet all of that power, and I can actually still tell where my routes are and what route is doing what. Yeah, that's really great. Tobbe, feel free to stick around. You don't have to. It'd be great to have you up on the stage. So there's all these amazing features that people build into the Redwood framework, and then every once in a while, and happening more often than not now, someone shows up in the show and tell category in the forums and says, hey, check out this thing I just built. And in this case, it was, I spent 2 weeks with Redwood prototyping UserVitals, and it's working out. And I think I'm going to build this thing. And that was several months ago. And now we get to see a demo of what is in beta, onboarding early customers, UserVitals, and we get to meet Tharshan. And Tharshan, how did you get connected? So thank you. I already know what's coming in the presentation. This is, get excited. It's really, there's a lot going on. But Tharshan, how did you come to how did you find Redwood? I remember reading that post, and I reached out to you and said, like, this is amazing. How can we help? Tell us more.
Yeah.
Yeah, how did you find out about Redwood?
I think I've been following Redwood for a couple of months before. I've been using sort of React and other technologies. I'm sort of actually from like the Python and Django world, but I've been following Redwood for quite a bit, and I really like the whole conventions and sort of the structure around everything, the way that it was kind of like laid out. At the time I initially discovered it, I was working on another product that was a lot more towards just like a different stack of like Python and Django on one side and React on one side. And it was just something that I really wanted to use in the future, just like when I had something in the future to use it for. And UserVitals just happened to be something that I wanted to sort of use it for.
Oh, yeah, very fun. And I mean, you said 2 weeks to an MVP, but that's because you have a team of like 50 people in your previous startup that you're working with. So, I mean, 2 weeks, but it was, you know, like 500 people hours, right?
No, the 2 weeks was just me. But it was mostly to get to an MVP stage. Just trying to like figure out, okay, can I do this bit of the application? Can I do this bit of application? And like just doing some initial prototyping of like getting the ground off and getting the foundation built for Redwood. And that was the initial 2 weeks. And I could foresee kind of where it could go in all these different kind of layers and directions. And I was like, okay, let's sort of add more people or whatever. Yeah.
Very fun. I knew the answer ahead of time. That was a trick question. Also, way to go. And that's not the first time I've heard that, you know, an individual was able to get pretty far with Redwood quickly. We're aiming for that. So, well, hey, you take over. I know you actually have a presentation here, but a demo of UserVitals. We're going to stick around, and I will be watching, as will others, for questions coming up in the thread. Tharshan has given us permission to kind of drop in and let him know if there's a question. He could field it. Otherwise, we will collect all those questions for the end discussion as well. We'll make this casual, but also allow you to get focused, because I know you have a lot of great things to show us. So
yeah, sure.
I'll mute myself for now.
Is my audio and everything clear?
Sounds good. Sound good. Look good.
All right, great. So let me share my full screen, because I think that's the best way to go about doing it. And I'll sort of present the whole screen, and then I can focus on the presentation, and then okay.
That's great. Yeah, come in. Yeah, great size.
Does that come up? Okay.
Perfect. Yep.
Okay, so yeah, hi everyone. My name is Tharshan. So UserVitals is something that I'm building, and as I said, like I started it with Redwood, and we're quite far along. We're definitely in the kind of beta launch period right now, and sort of early access period now, and we're sort of slowly starting to onboard customers. So what is UserVitals? So it's a central place to collect all your customer insights, and it helps you collect, organize, and prioritize the customer feedback when you're working on a product, usually a SaaS product, or it could be also a physical product too. I started this product because I worked on my previous SaaS called Scrum Genius, and I did a lot of early customer development. I kind of came across these problems around collecting customer feedback, but also just trying to collect that and organize it in a particular way. Other solutions try to approach this in terms of upvotes and trying to do it like that in terms of just like numbers and qualitative data. I've approached this, in a very strategic way, in a slightly different way in terms of the way that I went about feature building and the way that I think a lot of other product owners do it internally too. So let me get into it. So I'll briefly go over some slides about what is UserVitals. So as I said before, UserVitals focuses on the collection of quantitative data. So stories are collections of insights. So insights are sort of quotes from customers, snippets of text. And again, these days, customers are not really using a single tool. I never wanted UserVitals to be sort of a silo information. I wanted it to be sort of a collection of lots of different integrations all coming together, and you're looking at UserVitals for a central place, but you can still use Intercom, Help Scout, Slack, whatever you're using, whether it's a community, to collect all those things and have that original source of information. And of course, we built it out in a way that your existing customers, wherever those platforms are, whether it's your own database or something like another API that you can connect to us, you can have those customers sign up and single sign on with UserVitals and kind of easily give feedback in a very quick way. And we'll also sort of provide those insights of who those customers are, as well as additional details such as which plan they're on, whether they're on a trial, etc. So there's different components of UserVitals. The one you just saw before was the admin portal, but a really important part of it is also the customer portal, the roadmap, the changelog, and things like that. So this is the customer-facing part of it. Again, I built it out in a very strategic way where I believe that this is something that the customer should choose in terms of how they wish to go about communicating this. So they can go full on public, be transparent about everything that they're doing. They can take it completely private. So they might want to use UserVitals as a completely internal roadmap tool just for feature prioritization. And that's also perfectly fine. Or hybrid, where they can sort of openly talk about and have publicly displayed things that they're already progressing, but then keep maybe certain things unlisted because they want to just collect internal feedback, but they're not quite ready to announce it or really maybe get people's hopes up. And this is a common thing that I've definitely noticed. When I'm building my product, I'm usually wanting to analyze if this is a worthwhile thing to do. So having those customer conversations is really important. So yeah, that's why private, public, hybrid are all modes that currently is supported. The third part of it is the important component is the changelog itself. So building momentum and especially when you're in the early stages of your product, publishing those updates and keeping your customers up to date with what you're working on is a really useful way to sort of, at least for those early adopters, they really want to know that you're supporting them and they're part of a journey with you, and they're helping really change the product as you go along with them. So keeping them up to date with what you're working on and publishing those updates in a transparent way is good for everyone. So the way that we do that is on the portal itself, we have the changelogs. And then we also have these widgets that are completely embeddable, third-party widgets that we can embed on the third-party website, whether it's your marketing website or whether it's inside of the application itself. You could just link them up to any link, whether it's a button, whether it's a hypertext link, etc. And then fourth thing, which the way that I've approached it is integrations. So we've already built out integrations with our Chrome extension. So the Chrome extension is already live and being used. And then we have our Slack application. We have that's not published yet, but it's internally being used. And then other applications that are currently being developed as well, such as like our Zapier application and things like that. So this is so that customers can easily connect their existing systems and pull in information. And anything we don't currently support as an official integration, we're hoping to just fall back with our Chrome extension so that you can collect the feedback from any system you're using on the web already, whether it's sort of like a lesser well-known help scout, like a help center option, like a live chat system maybe, or a ticketing system, or something else where you're having customer conversations essentially. So the overall sort of idea and like the reason you may want to use UserVitals for your startup is that ideally you want to build up momentum, so you want to show that your customers, so you show to your customers that you're actively building and improving the product. You want to announce kind of feature updates and close that feedback loop. So show them kind of how you collected that feedback and actually acted on it. Most startups are trying to reach product market fit, so they're usually trying to figure out who the right customers are. So in the early days, they might be getting a lot of feedback from lots of different places, and they may not want to like implement every single thing. So having that feature sets of feedback bubbling up and like really prioritizing what they want to align with their own vision and choosing what to build next is kind of important. And aligning product with CS is a really important one. I think that having customer success, they're the front lines of most feedback, and having the product team aligned, because usually customer success is not the ones actually acting on these decisions. So product teams are, and so having those two aligned so that customer success can usually use UserVitals to input and have add insights, but then the product teams are aligned and having conversations between the CS team about the insights that they're seeing, and really being aligned on the roadmap, and you're having UserVitals at the heart of it all. So that's pretty much it for the demo. I want to sort of slowly talk about how I started building with Redwood and maybe go over some challenges I faced, but also how I went about solving them.
Okay, just
why did
pause real quick. I got to interrupt. Tharshan, that's a lot, man. that's a lot of features. And I know things are still in beta, but anyway, that gets me excited. That seems like a really integrated suite, and I know I'm already thinking about. We'd already talked and gone through some of this presentation, but I'm trying to figure out how and where this could fit for Redwood. So anyway, like this is the problem we have all the time with ideas and RCs coming in. So anyway, looks amazing. Please carry on. That's a lot of work, and that's a very sophisticated product. So all right, keep going.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, so let me talk a little bit about why I chose Redwood and why I think why Redwood is a good fit. Because obviously, it is a complex product, and there are definitely requirements of certain things that I needed to get it done. So authentication was a really big factor for me to sort of be pulled into Redwood. Having authentication being solved as like with multiple providers, and again, I actually went through the journey of like really flipping between lots of providers before I ended up choosing my like final one, which is Firebase. So I started with I think Auth0, then I used Superbase, and again, like they're all great in their own respects. I did Netlify Auth as well, but just for my product, sort of the Firebase authentication was the best fit for me for UserVitals. And again, like I think what I'm trying to get across is that having Redwood kind of have first-class support for authentication and having these multiple providers, it makes it really for whatever you're building for you to be not fully locked into one. You get to choose what you essentially choose at the end of the day, and you get to switch pretty easily as well. Deployments. So again, similar journey. I started with serverless. Now I use full-on servers and server full, you could say. So I'll talk a little bit about that. Having the CLI. So really, I come from like Django and Python, and that has like a full-on CLI. You can use it to do migrations and little operations and one-off tasks and scripts. So I love you having a CLI, and this, again, Redwood uses it actually for generations of files and things like that. So having that really attracted me in terms of its usage. So Prisma, again, I've worked with ORMs before. It's really useful. And having that tight integration between the front end and back end, having the GraphQL layer, everything tied together, it's a very nice and productive way to work. When I worked with Python and Django, the front end and back end almost felt like two separate sides. Like the layer in the middle was just what was holding, but there was not much interconnection between them. But here you can easily add a new type to GraphQL, and you could be coding on the front end on the side, on the cell or a component, and that type is going to show up, like the thing that you just made a few seconds ago. That integration and that kind of type safety is really important. Conventions, so talking about file structure, organization, the concept of cells for easy data access, like having these tool belts and having this structure to follow is really, really useful. And again, like I'm used to that as well from what I've used before, and I really like that. And then I think the GraphQL and TypeScript, I touched on it a little bit as well, but again, that connection between the front end and back end development is really key, and it allows the front end to really choose what data it fetches and be descriptive about what it's fetching from the database. And yeah, I think the testament to this stuff is that yes, I am kind of quite experienced. I've done lots of different languages before, but I would say that Redwood has been used for the past few months by a first-year university student who's been my co-op student for this past few months, and he's picked it up with and he was coming in with little to no React experience. I gave him a couple of courses to learn from, and then he picked up Redwood pretty quickly, and he's now shipping full-on features without my help. So yeah, so that's a testament that it can be relearned by pretty much anyone.
Yeah. That's amazing. That's an amazing statement. So I want to see more of that. Wow.
Okay, so I'll quickly talk about the tech stacks we use. Yeah, so this is not strictly Redwoods related, but I think it's important. Certain things definitely helped with my choices. So we use Postgres for the database. We were previously hosted on DigitalOcean, but now we host on Render. We were previously on serverless with Versal, and I'll talk a little bit about some of that stuff in my journey a little bit later on. But yeah, we use Render and host all of our components, our widgets, our portal application, our admin application, the database, the API, all of that is on Render. Our email systems in terms of transactional emails and everything like that is Postmark. Stripe for payments. Authentication providers is using Firebase. And again, that's nice because we've added on RBAC on top and have easy GraphQL authentication. So things like the Chrome extension, other integrations do actually touch base on Firebase and touch that layer before going to the API. So there's always authentication for certain components that need it. And then we have Sentry and LogDNA for error tracking and logging respectively. So these are really key components, I feel, for almost any application that you're planning to take to production. And yeah, I've been able to kind of integrate Redwood fairly easily with most of these things, with some community help as well. Great. So yeah, I'll talk a little bit about my journey from serverless to serverfull. So yeah, I do want to preface this that my startup has very specific requirements of what I wanted from it, and there were certain things that I was not willing to accept in terms of the way that it performed or the way that it behaved. But again, your own startup or your own product or project may have different requirements, and it's completely up to you to make that decision. But I'll talk about my experiences so that you can kind of hopefully make an informed decision, or at least try both and see what fits. So I did host on serverless with Versal. So one big thing was that cold startup latency was a big issue for me. So for a single page application, every page sells various different things are making database calls. That's a big issue when you are having sort of these serverless functions that need to spin up and kind of respond to those requests. It can seem great, like the whole scale aspect of it, but it is also, it definitely feels slow of how quickly it responds. It's, that loading indicator, you see it for quite a bit before you see the response. And when you're trying to build an application that feels very slick and like fluid to use, and you're trying to have that UI as a UX experience as like a key front of like what you're building, it doesn't help that your architecture is kind of like lagging behind with that. And then I actually did certain things such as like uptime monitors that were actually pinging all the serverless functions pretty frequently. This didn't really help. It kind of reduced it slightly, but the overall kind of latency was still kind of something that I couldn't accept in terms of what was acceptable for me. Database and server latency, so even though we were previously hosting on DigitalOcean and sort of the Versal functions, I did pay for Versal, and I was able to sort of co-locate and sort of choose the same region, but there was still an added latency to that. So clearly they weren't like that close potentially. So problems with file access also is like in terms of the way serverless functions ship. This is, I think, an ongoing issue, and I think Redwood is working on this to improve it. But file access, so if you're doing like email templates within your code base, if you need file access for whatever reason within your serverless functions, this can be a little bit tricky to work, and it depends on this service provider too. I know that Netlify does make it a bit easier, so you can ship your own functions and like kind of compile this in. And then I think the other thing is like, this is a very specific to UserVitals, but limited wildcard domain support was like a big thing. With Versal, this is just something I needed personally for the way that my product worked, because we provide sort of a subdomain for every product that signs up with us, whether it's like redwood.uservitalshq.com or some other startup.uservitalshq.com. So with all these reasons, I looked into other options in terms of moving elsewhere into a serverless setup. So we are now hosted on everything pretty much, like including our staging and production applications, on render.com. I had a pretty easy setup. Community member Peter helped out with this because he had done this before, and then I sort of took that and like did further stuff on top. But pretty much works out of the box. Only real changes was that we moved the API to the subdomain instead of like it being on a path. But overall, I think that's actually better. The website is actually hosted as a static site, so Render actually gives you complete, like it's a free service that they offer you. All static sites are free. You're just paying for the API essentially, which is a Node server. Like a server, but it's like a Node application. And then we get unlimited wildcard domains in terms of like in terms of the service, and that's perfect for us because it just helps a lot with what we're trying to do as a startup. We don't really have the cost to pay for like an enterprise plan with Versal and things like that. And then similar to Redwood, they have a lot of great community support. It definitely feels like they listen to you and like are willing to help you out a lot more, and there's definitely a community around it. And then we also host the database on Render too, so that really helps with the database latency and things like that. And it's not even public at all, so it doesn't even reach the outside world. It's all connected internally. So that's that.
Tharshan, quick update on Render. So this is happening in real time in a PR. The founder of Render, Anurag, and his David, there's another David's product manager there, Sean's a developer. They've been working, there's a PR in process right now. It'll be coming in. They are stoked, really excited, fired up, adjective about having first-class support for Redwood. So the things that Tharshan is doing here, Peter was another one who's paving the way, and not in this release, but the next one, you'll be able to run with our command line, Redwood setup deploy render, and have everything you need configured automatically inside of your Redwood project. It'll function the same way. Git push to GitHub, git commit, push to GitHub, triggers a deploy on render, and you're up and running. And they have much more of a full infrastructure suite of products to offer as well. So that's more to come.
That's
more
really
to come, Tharshan. Yeah. So, and also, little spoiler alert. SQLite database, which for a hobby project would be very acceptable. They're the only providers we know of right now that you would be able to use a SQLite if you wanted to do a test. So you're going from the tutorial and wanted to keep working on SQLite for early stage prototyping, you could do that on Render. First time we've been able to do that all integrated. Okay, yeah. Keep going. And that was cool. A great, gosh, we could talk for a long time about the challenges between serverless and database and what that networking connection speed is really doing to overall performance. It's a downer. It's a downer, quite frankly.
Yeah, so, and I think that quite a few community members have also sort of been burnt a little bit by serverless. Like it definitely is seems like a very promising tech in the surface of it, but when you really dig down and you go to production with it, it's definitely very specific to the application that you're building. Yeah. And I know other people like Chris and stuff have had a similar experience. So yeah, totally. I think us trying to support serverful and being mindful of equally both setups and helping people choose, I think that's always a good thing.
Right, and you followed the flow. You were able to get up and running, low cost, started with serverless, moved on when you needed to because there were other things you needed to do. Anyway, that's a pretty cool workflow. Okay, keep going. Thanks for letting me dive in.
Okay, so and then so I wanted to kind of quickly go over the architecture of sort of how things fit together, which parts are Redwood, which parts are sort of connected to Redwood. But so here is an example of the orange kind of circle surrounding it. That's all the Redwood application. So admin portal, customer portal, that's all Redwood. They're just two sides of a Redwood app, but it is actually it's a single mono repo kind of setup. And I'll talk a little bit about that. We use Firebase for email and password, magic links, and single sign-on tokens and stuff like that for our feature sets. And single sign-on was actually a big thing about Firebase. And we'll also add in social providers such as GitHub and Microsoft Login and things like that. So Chrome extension is something we built. That is actually a React app, but it does actually talk to the Redwood API. So anyone can connect the feedback from any web app. It uses Firebase authentication. We use the SDK inside of the application and talk to the API, Redwood API on top to authenticate customers with their own logins that they have inside of the admin portal and allow them to sort of do certain actions, core actions such as collecting feedback. And then widgets. So widgets also do the same thing. They're built in a similar technology of JavaScript, but just they connect to the API. They also do a little bit of an authentication layer on top as well. And they all touch the API layer. And then integrations such as Slack, Intercom, Help Scout, Zapier, they were actually all powered by Redwood functions for single sign-on or API access. Those are all kind of powered by Redwood in the same way, and we are able to kind of leverage pretty much the same code base pretty much everywhere. And we've built out services that use common functionalities and then just expose them through sort of serverless functions easily to the applications when we need it.
Here's another important question. When you went from serverless infrastructure to traditional server full, how much refactoring did you have to do in your API?
No refactoring really needed. It was pretty much just adding.
That was a trick question. No refactoring, right? That's kind of crazy. Because typically you would have to. Anyway, that was all. I just wanted to hear you say it because that's amazing.
Yeah, I think that if you're going to serverless from the very start and you're not picking something like Redwood, it is a very different setup, and each provider almost has a completely different setup for serverless. So I think if I wasn't using Redwood to go from serverless to serverfull, it probably would be a lot of rewrites.
Keep going. Mike is heckling me in the chat over there. I see you, Mike.
Okay, so then I think I'll go over some just what I've learned with building with Redwood and going to production. Some of these things you may encounter, you may not, but I just wanted to go over some tips. So this is actually something that I Tobbe helped me with. Like, I mean, we had like various conversations around the router and like what I'm trying to do, and I was doing a lot of hacks on top. But eventually, yeah, the code base right now is is a single repo, and both our portal application and our admin application is hosted in the same repo. And based on a context variable, we have two sort of servers that deploy the application, whether it's an admin application or a portal application. And so the routes are specific, and by doing it this way, we've also been able to avoid sort of the white flashes and things like that I've had before. I've not had a chance to use sets yet, but that is something that I'm looking forward to sort of using, because we do utilize layouts quite a lot. We have like, I think 4 or 5 layouts for various different bits. So yeah, I think sets would be kind of interesting on top. So this is, yeah, just a little bit of a snippet to kind of show how that works. Error boundaries. So this is always really important when you're going to production. So having like an environmental aware error boundary on top of your application or inside of specific cells or specific pages to really handle that in case of like errors, and to allow for sort of error catching and reporting that to an external service. So I personally use Sentry. I've used it quite a lot before, and I'm very used to it. And so I've set this up on the front end and API. I think that this stuff is not, it's like you do need to configure that slightly differently for the API and the front end, but it's worth definitely doing and putting that effort. I know Danny, from a community member on the Redwood team, he has a tutorial, I think, on DevTO that walks through some of this stuff. So definitely look that up, and you'll be able to follow this. Setting up a staging environment is really important. Having like an environment that you can QA in that is, you know, not your local environment, that is very close to production. This might seem obvious, but it's just definitely worth doing like as early as you can, then, and where it makes sense, where the cost is not too prohibitive. Yeah, an additional tip is having sort of custom fabric icons and sort of other little customizations so that you know which environment you're in, other than the URL, of course. So this is just something I did a little bit to just expose sort of through the Webpack plugin, just different environments, and kind of just do a little bit of a if statement to load different favicon icons and things like that. To load favicon icons, it's a lot more code than this. I'm just showing a very small snippet, but to support most browsers, you need like 6 icons and a manifest file. So yeah, so that's that. And then yeah, the final thing, this is actually first-class support for Redwood now, which is the logging library itself. Yeah, so this screenshot is showing logDNA with sort of some metadata, such as the source, the application, and the host name, and other sort of additional sort of variables that I add in. But this is to show just how that kind of connects together. But you don't necessarily have to use logDNA. You can use other providers. So setting up logging early on is definitely good to just so that you can trace how to reproduce the issues later on. So you can kind of ideally trace what a user might have done to encounter that error, especially if you're doing a lot of backend code that's going through a lot of business logic. And then, yeah, this is something I recently solved, and I recently posted a recipe or cookbook around this. So this is so that pre-rendering, so if you've ever worked on an application or a single application, you'll know that like that's not easy to do unless you support single sign-on, or sorry, not single sign-on, server-side rendering, or sort of build it as like a server-side first application. And so to do this, this was really important for me because I know that there are certain pages that, such as the roadmap, such as the changelog, that I know that if customers were to share it, like such on Slack or wherever they're discussing through team members, I wanted this to like nice preview to come up, and so they can see it. So this is something that I did recently to essentially put Nginx in front, have the pre-render service going, and essentially what it does is if crawlers or bots come up, they'll get served the pre-rendered dynamic page, and then anyone else just gets like a normal SBA page. And with this, you can achieve like sort of dynamic title tags from your database, dynamic descriptions, custom OG images, and meta tags, etc. for like social kind of platforms such as like Twitter, Facebook, and Slack, etc. And yeah, the cookbook is available now in the community forum, so you feel free to check that out.
This is really nice. I just shared the link. This is really nice. Thank you.
Great. And yeah, I think I just wanted to kind of talk about like building with the community. Like this is like I'm definitely building, UserVitals in like a kind of a public way and talking about it publicly, but also, having a sort of a technical community to also discuss challenges with. So in the early days, I was solving a lot of different problems that I think maybe certain members might not have encountered with Redwood. And it was really helpful to just have people pitch in ideas or suggestions and have active discussions with community members and core contributors, and really share that knowledge and have existing cookbooks to rely on. So like, going from serverless to serverful and having sort of people who might have done that or have like ideas on how it could be achieved, like that's really helpful. And just sharing common problems and solutions. And also just to share the wins and losses, in the startup, because there's a lot of stuff that you're doing, and it's always helpful to just kind of be along with a community that's also going in the same pace or potentially in the similar kind of state to you, or even a little bit further, so you can just kind of learn from them. And yeah, like I think anyone can take advantage of this. You can join the community on Discourse and also join the live chats on Discord. And whether it's a product or just like a side project, you can get involved. And I think the final thing I want to say is just a special thank to community members like Danny and Peter and Chris and DT and Tobbe himself as well. You've just all like contributed to like kind of helping with where UserVitals is right now, and definitely help move the velocity of things and just like help me solve some of those problems, and really will help me work on the business problems at all. So yeah, that's been great, and that's pretty much it. That's the end of my presentation, and I just wanted to leave anything for the questions and stuff.
Tharshan, thank you. I have a lot of questions. Keep talking about this for a while. So let's do this. There's technically we have 3 minutes left in the presentation. So if people need to peel out, please feel free to do. How much more time would you have, Tharshan, for some discussions?
Yeah, I'm good. Yeah.
Okay. So let's open it up. If anyone wants to join us on stage and actually like really ask Tharshan your question, I'm watching the chat right now. Let me know, and you're welcome to come up. Again, it doesn't have to be video; it could just be audio. You're welcome to join us up here. And my first question for you, Tharshan, is how can we help? What are you doing next? There's I believe, a kind of early access beta invite going on right now. That's all. So real time, you're kind of announcing this to the world in the last week or so, and that's why it was a good time to do this demo. But what else? How could we help you as a community? What's next?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's only been quite recently that I felt confident that like other people could start to use it. So I've been sort of starting to talk about UserVitals a little bit more in terms of how I'm building it, what the product is, and trying to do outreach in terms of like just getting some early customers on. So I'm reaching out to my own network, but then also just people who are sort of product managers and things like that. So I think, if you want to share UserVitals just with your own network, and just, I think it's a great fit for product managers, and I'm just having those early discussions, discovery calls, essentially, not even a sales pitch, it's just having discovery calls with product managers, anyone who's had that problem of just like trying to wrangle qualitative data with product teams and CS teams. And and I'm always looking to increase, get more people on our wait list, and anyone who's interested in the product, I'll be happy to give them a demo and get them set up.
If you have the chat, why don't you put the link in the chat, and we'll also, when I do a recap of this, or whoever helps me with that, we post it. We'll put the link there as well.
Yeah, we'll do. So,
okay, we have a few questions coming in. Anthony and Claire, do you want to come up on stage? You just want me to ask your questions here, if you're still there. Okay, perfect. Yeah, Claire had some questions. So the question from Anthony. So Claire, inviting you up on stage right now. Question from Anthony was, do you any other I think it was this. What were the challenges in migrating from serverless to traditional serverful architecture? Or what were the biggest challenges?
I think challenges was like the main one was trying to decide where you go, because each platform has specific sort of setups. So like something like Fly.io has a specific setup. Something like, you know, a full-on like VPS provider like Linode or DigitalOcean, you have to kind of set up everything. I know Chris approached it in the way that he did a full-on like Linux setup and then put PM2 on top, like a process manager on top, and then served up the API server. I was actually looking for something a little bit more managed. I didn't want to manage a server. I have definitely done it before, but I just preferred this time that I felt like I understood the components of it and I felt like I didn't need to manage a server. So I was looking for something a little bit more managed, and Render was a good fit because essentially they could just like detect the environment. It's very similar to what Heroku does, just setting up an environment, detecting the node environment, installing the packages. So you're just telling it like, here's the build step, here's the here's how you run it essentially. So here's the command to run the server. It's in a way it's very similar to Vercel. So like the transition for me personally was not a huge like leap in terms of like mentally of like how it works. And the only difference is that that server runs 24/7, whereas the serverless stuff runs like, you know, when requests come in.
Was there much of a kind of monthly hosting fee difference in the two?
Yeah, so Vercel, like you pay $20 a month, I think, for kind of a, like there's definitely a limit on the projects, and there's a lot more complex pricing with the Vercel in terms of how many functions you can have, how many projects you can have. So it's a lot more complex. With Render, it's basically like, you know, pricing starts at $7 a month for servers, and then the static sites are completely free. So, you know, the website of Redwood is completely free.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. And then, yeah, the database cost was
a lot cheaper. Yeah, database cost, I think, is also very reasonable. I think it's like very competitive with other companies, and I would say even a little bit cheaper. Yeah.
Okay, man, I've got some feedback for our Jamstack hosting providers. And just in that, anyway, some thoughts, right? Because it's been interesting. We've all been learning a lot. I'm excited that you could make the switch over, right? Like that. Yeah. That's what we wanted to happen. You would not feel lock in. You could make the change.
I think on the serverless architecture, I definitely felt like I was in the wrong place for a long time. Like I knew it. There was a big hesitation to move because it didn't seem easy. And again, like community members like Peter just like kind of gave me that nudge and like gave me a little bit of a head start. Like here's how it does. Right. Here's how I did it. And then I just kind of tried it on Render. I just tried different options. And then because I was exploring like Fly.io and other options, I was considering, okay, you know what, maybe I should just do what works and just go like full on like VPS solution and just get a box and just set everything up like Chris did. But yeah, I think it's just that kind of mentality, like having that mental block and just overcoming it. And like, again, I think the Redwood docs could really help with that. I think if we really lay out like almost kind of how we done it for the author providers, like here's a deployment provider and here's the steps you need to run it. And yeah, if we can do like a one-click solution, I know that Render has like a YAML format where you can almost do like a one-click solution, then that would be awesome.
Yeah, great to hear. Great to hear. Claire, that's a lovely beanie.
Hey, just wanted to say thank you. First off, like this was an extremely informative and inspiring presentation to see a product that's going into production. And not only that, but like you're explaining the blockers you hit and how to get around them. So just thank you for taking that extra step and sharing that with us. I had two quick questions. One is like, when are you thinking of going live with this? Because it'll be interesting to see a production load on this.
Yeah, I think that, you know, I don't know when I'll realistically hit a production load. It's just, I'm just slowly onboarding customers as they come. And then, but yeah, I'm sort of trying to be in early access, like with it. I don't have a good idea of like when I will be, maybe a couple of months. But if I feel confident, it's really just to get like those early adopters and just iron out the kinks. But otherwise, if things go well, I think maybe in a month or so. But hopefully, yeah, I think I expect like the load. Honestly, I'm not too worried about it. Like I know that Postgres scales incredibly well, and I've used Postgres, and it's like a tried and true technology for me. And Firebase has been amazing with just like the authentication. So I don't even foresee any issues with scaling right at the moment. At least right now.
Yeah, you're in the early adopter stage. But speaking of like user kinks, are you going to use UserVitals for UserVitals? So you can.
I'm going to use UserVitals for my other product I have that's already sort of making has like the amount of customers, and it's like a good fit for what UserVitals is. So I'll use it for that. It's probably a bit too early to use it for UserVitals actually, because there's like a sort of more of a limit. I think UserVitals is a good fit if you're like around 50 to 100 customers, you're getting enough feedback. I think if you're not getting enough feedback, you're not getting that like feedback loop. You're almost better off just using like a Notion or some sort of spreadsheet or something like that. Just your own little project management tool kind of to use it for now. Yeah.
I see. So like once you get that 50 to 100 range, it might be.
Yeah, or you're kind of like have like a dedicated PM, or you're sort of getting to that outside bit of like, as a single founder, or like a small team, you're kind of starting to think about prioritization a lot more. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Thank you for sharing.
I had a question as well for you, Tharshan. It's been real nice seeing your journey. We've been with you for a while, seeing your struggles earlier. But I wanted to hear about how it's been to work with Redwood as it's been going through all the releases and all the changes that's been going into it.
Yeah, I think that honestly, I've not really had like a huge breaking change for anything. I think all the upgrades have been like really well documented, really easy to upgrade. And again, like my experience with like React already and other languages helped a lot. GraphQL, I've used it a little bit, but Prisma was very new to me. I was a little bit hesitant of picking up Prisma because it's a very new technology, and but I could tell that they're pushing out and doing a lot of updates, and like a lot of the stuff that I wanted to see like usually came out like a couple of weeks ahead, and Prisma would just release that. So it's like, okay, yeah, they're like really listening and doing all the stuff, because I'm kind of used to a full-fledged ORM with Django. So yeah, I think like Redwood's been great, and like I think honestly it's just solving my own like little challenges for myself. But otherwise, it's been really easy to work with, and I know that my intern has like felt like it was a really easy thing to work with as well.
Thank you.
Hopefully that answers your question.
Oh yeah, thanks.
I think someone was asking if you need any more interns.
Yeah, I'm open to having discussions. We have like 2 coming up in the summer, and my current one he's been liking it so much he wants to do part-time while he does studies. So, but yeah, I'm always open to discuss and talk to talent. Yeah.
Well, we do on that same line of thought. I look forward to seeing when this takes off and some customers are onboarding, you coming back to hire some Redwood devs. So that's the fun little loop.
Yeah.
We started to see hints of it happening with a couple of projects. And,
yeah, well, now is the real challenging part, right? The coding is the easy part. Getting the customers, building up the the user base, getting revenue. It's all the real challenges.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, crew. Anything else? Anyone else? We've had anyway, it's trickled a bit. We're definitely over time. Thank you. This was a great. I look forward to. I'll be getting the recording up. Look forward to spreading the word with the recording. We'll, with your permission, we'll get the slides and distribute those as well. And you had a lot of great code samples in there. And anyway, it was great. Thank you for putting the time into the presentation.
No problem.
It was really informative and helpful. And I just know that
no problem. Yeah, it helped me practice also writing a pitch deck, even if it was a little bit technical. But yeah, the first part of it was good practice.
Well, It was great. It's a great start. So I'm not an investor, but you had me, so I'm excited. Anyway, Tharshan, thank you. Tobbe, thank you. Rob, always thank you. And I think that's it. This was fun. We'll see everyone in a few weeks again for another meetup. And I think we're signing off for today. So go check out version 0.28. We've got 0.29 coming out soon, and we're getting close to a release candidate for version 1. So keep a lookout. We're getting those that feature set pretty much nailed down. Good things to come.
Thank you,
everyone.
David. No one ever thanks David. Thanks, David.
Oh, thank you for thanking me, Rob.
Unless you just finish.
I feel it. I feel the love all the time. All right. I'll sign off. I'm going to end the event. I've got the button. It's right in front of me.
Okay.
Once,
Bye.
twice. Have a good day.